There's a certain kind of mind that doesn't move the way the world moves. A mind that pauses before it speaks. A mind that feels every detail, every shift in the air, every unspoken meaning hidden beneath ordinary moments. You've probably met someone like this, or maybe you are someone like this. The kind of person who can turn a small thought into a galaxy, a simple moment into a story, a single question into a doorway to 100 more. People call them quiet. People call them distant. People call them lost in their head. But they're not lost. They're exploring. Deep thinkers live in an inner world that moves in slow motion, full of patterns, symbols, questions, and meanings most people never notice. While the world races forward, they sit still, not because they're stuck, but because they're seeing what's hidden beneath everything. And here's the truth most people miss. Being a deep thinker is not about intelligence. It's about awareness. It's about sensitivity. It's about noticing the layers of life that others walk past without feeling. It's a gift, and sometimes a heavy one. Because when your mind sees so deeply, you don't just live life, you interpret it. You analyze it. You reflect on it long after others have forgotten. This is the psychology of people who think too deeply, feel too deeply, and see the world in a way that is both beautiful and painfully rare. People misunderstand deep thinkers all the time. They assume silence means distance. They assume slowness means confusion. They assume depth means drama. But the truth is quieter and kinder. Deep thinkers aren't avoiding life. They're handling it carefully. They move slower because they're carrying more context, more possibilities, more meaning per moment. On the surface, it looks simple. A pause before answering, a long look out the window, a question that seems too big for the room. Underneath, it's a whole inner orchestra, memory, imagination, empathy, logic, all tuning themselves to the same note before a single word leaves the mouth. That pause isn't hesitation, it's precision. And yet, the same mind that sees the pattern also feels the weight of it. Depth is a gift, but gifts come with gravity. Because when you notice subtext, you also notice tension. When you hear what isn't said, you also hear what's been avoided for years. When you connect everything, you can't always switch it off. So deep thinkers make a quiet trade with the world. They give fewer words and offer better ones. They show less often and mean it more when they do. This is the tension they live in. An outer world that wants speed and an inner world that wants truth. Call it a burden if you want. They call it integrity. They would rather be honest than loud, real than fast, present than performative. If you've ever felt too much for this world, too reflective, too sensitive, too precise, know this. You're not broken, you're built for depth. And in a world that rushes past meaning, depth is not a problem to fix. It's a way of seeing that quietly saves what matters. There's a reason deep thinkers move differently through the world. Here's what's happening beneath the surface, simple, true, and human. The inner why engine. Deep thinkers have a high need for cognition. Their brain treats questions like oxygen. They don't think to impress, they think to understand. It's not performance, it's metabolism. The quiet network that lights up. When they drift into reflection, the default mode network hums. Memory, imagination, self-story, all braided together. That's why a small moment can open into a whole universe. They're not zoning out, they're connecting. Metacognition. watching the mind think. They don't just have thoughts, they observe them. What am I thinking? Why? What follows from this? That second lens makes them precise and sometimes slow. It's a built-in editor before the words leave the mouth. Depth processing equals heavy memories. Experiences are stored with meaning, symbolism, feeling. They don't remember events, they remember ecosystems. A song isn't a song, it's a season, a person, a streetlight. Beautiful but weighty. Nostalgia hits like weather. Emotional complexity, 2 notes at once. They can feel gratitude and grief in the same breath. Not confusion, capacity. This is why they seem calm but look far away. They're holding more than one truth without exploding either. Pattern recognition and micro-signals. They read tone, pauses, micro-expressions, timing. They catch the line that didn't match the eyes. To others, it looks like intuition. To them, it's data. Small details forming a map. Tolerance for ambiguity, living with maybe. They don't need fast answers. They can sit with "I don't know" without collapsing. That ambiguity tolerance is a quiet superpower. It keeps them from rushing into pretty lies. The pause. Prefrontal break. Before reacting, the prefrontal cortex steps in. Breathe, simulate, choose. That micro-pause is why they speak less and regret less. Precision over performance. Rumination versus reflection. A double-edged blade. Reflection clarifies, rumination loops. Deep thinkers can slide from one into the other. Signal becomes noise when the mind hunts closure that isn't there. Their work stops when insight ends and spinning begins. Solitude as regulation, not withdrawal. Alone time is how they detox the nervous system. Stillness lets patterns settle and feelings sort themselves. They return with fewer words and better ones. Solitude isn't avoidance, it's calibration. Meaning over momentum. They'd rather go slow and true than fast and hollow. That clashes with a world built on urgency. But depth isn't delay, it's direction. When they finally move, it's aligned. Creativity as convergence. Because they connect distant dots, ideas cross-pollinate. Art, code, ethics, design, same roots, new branches. They don't think outside the box. They dissolve the box and keep the structure that matters. In short, a deep thinker's mind is not loud, it's layered. Not distant, it's discerning. Not fragile, it's carefully tuned. If this feels like you, nothing's wrong with your pace. You're not behind. You're building understanding. And understanding takes time. Depth is beautiful, but it isn't weightless. There's a cost to seeing beneath the surface. Here's what most people never notice: conversation lag. By the time you form the right sentence, the room has already moved on, so you swallow it. Later, you replay the moment, editing a scene no one will ever watch. It's not shyness, it's accuracy. Mental noise. Your mind is a dozen tabs, all playing softly. Past, present, future, braided together. You try to sleep, but ideas keep knocking. Not to torture you, but because your brain believes everything deserves completion. Some things don't, and that's hard to accept. Misread silence. Silence is how you think, but people hear it as distance, judgment, disinterest. You're not pulling away, you're pulling in, to gather the right meaning before you offer a word. Emotional overload. You catch what others miss, the crack in a smile, the wobble in a voice, the weight behind "I'm fine." Sensitivity is a gift until you're carrying a room full of feelings that aren't yours. Small talk fatigue. You can do it. You just leave emptier. Because your mind is wired for substance, for the story behind the story, not the weather between strangers. Analysis, isolation. When you see too much, it's hard to relax. You notice contradictions, motives, patterns that don't match the words. Trust becomes a slow gait, and loneliness slips in through the carefulness. Rumination's trap. Reflection clarifies. Rumination corrodes. One asks, "What's true here?" The other whispers, "What if, what if, what if?" Deep minds sometimes circle the same question, looking for a door that isn't there. Expectation mismatch. You offer depth and expect depth back. You share something real and receive something rehearsed. It stings, not because you're fragile, but because you invested meaning, and meaning is expensive. Time dilation. You live in timelines, not moments. Past echoes, future branches, present signals, all processed at once. To others you look slow. Inside, you are running a full orchestra so the note that leaves is true. The world's pace. Fast rewards loud. Shallow rewards certainty. You value neither. So you often feel out of sync, like a quiet instrument in a stadium of drums. Self-awareness burn. Metacognition makes you precise and painfully aware of your flaws in high definition. You forgive others easily. Yourself? You hold to a standard that keeps moving. The weight of meaning. You don't carry moments. You carry their architecture, what they meant, what they revealed, what they changed. Beauty becomes heavier when it matters this much. Soft landing. If any of this feels like home, you're not broken, you're finely tuned. Your work isn't to think less, it's to hold less at once. To let some questions remain questions. To let some moments be only moments. Because depth doesn't need to drown you to be real. Sometimes the deepest thing you can do is come up for air. Breathe. We go on. Depth isn't just heavy, it's powerful when it's directed. Here's what deep thinkers do better than they realize. 1. Pattern vision, seeing the invisible thread. You don't just notice events, you notice how they connect. Motives, timelines, cause, arrow effect. That's why your advice lands. You're solving the real problem, not the loud one. Superpower, strategic clarity. 2. Precision with words. You don't speak first, you speak accurately. One sentence that reveals the whole room. People feel understood around you because you choose meaning over noise. Superpower, language that heals. 3. Emotional X-ray. You read tone, timing, micro-expressions. You can sense the bruise no one mentions. Used gently, that insight becomes safety for others. Superpower, attuned empathy. 4. Long horizon thinking. You don't chase short wins, you build things that last. When others pivot for applause, you hold direction. Superpower, patience as strategy. 5. Turning pain into maps. You don't waste suffering, you convert it into patterns, lessons, frameworks. Your scars become navigation for you, and sometimes for everyone you love. Superpower, alchemy, hurt, wisdom. 6. Ambiguity tolerance. While others demand certainty, you can hold a maybe without collapsing. That keeps you curious, creative, open. Superpower, staying creative under uncertainty. 7. Deep focus. When you lock in, time dissolves. You do in 3 focused hours what scattered minds chase for weeks. Superpower, flow on command when protected. 8. Integrity under pressure. You won't trade truth for speed. You won't trade depth for approval. That makes your presence quietly trustworthy. Superpower, calm moral center. 9. Meaning maker. You enrich ordinary moments. A walk becomes a revelation. A conversation becomes repair. People leave you different than they arrived. Superpower, creating significance. 10. Bridge thinking. You connect logic with feeling, analysis with compassion. You can be both honest and kind, rare and needed. Superpower, balance judgment. Remember, your depth is not an anchor. It's an engine when you point it somewhere worthy. Protect your focus. Spend your empathy wisely. Aim your questions at what builds. That's how depth becomes power. Deep thinkers don't love loudly. They love accurately. They won't flood you with words. They'll study you so they can care for you correctly. How they love. Slow to open, deep when they do. Trust is a bridge they test before crossing. Attention is their affection. They remember the tiny things you forgot you said. Listening as devotion. They'll hold your hardest sentences without flinching. Honesty over harmony. They'd rather repair with truth than pretend with ease. What they need. Time to think before they answer. Silence isn't withdrawal, it's alignment. Substance over spectacle. Small talk drains, real talk restores. Space that doesn't threaten love. Solitude is how they reset, not how they leave. Consistency. Depth can't grow where signals keep changing. How to speak to them. Invite depth early. What did today mean to you? Lands better than, how was your day? Ask one clear question at a time. They'll give you the whole map if you give them one road. Let them finish. Interruptions scatter a mind built for precision. Name the feeling, not just the fact. They bond where emotion and meaning meet. Where they struggle, over-interpreting signals. Reading subtext where there's only noise. Delayed expression. The perfect sentence arrives after the moment passes, carrying both sides. They argue with themselves before they ever speak to you, taking distance to protect you, which can feel like vanishing if it isn't named. Green flags for them: calm honesty, follow-through, curiosity, patient timing, emotional literacy, rhythms, walks, tea, quiet drives. A partner who respects thinking time. Red flags for them: love bombing, forced urgency, performative openness, punishment for silence, demanding instant answers, drama as intimacy, their love language decoded, curiosity, ask deeper, not louder, precision, say the thing you actually mean, presence, sit in quiet and let the room breathe. Protection. Guard their focus and they'll guard your heart. The promise. With the right person, a deep thinker is not distant, they are anchoring. Not cold, careful. Not hard to love, just built for the kind that lasts. Give them truth, time, and room to breathe, and they will give you a love that thinks, feels, and chooses you again and again. Depth doesn't need to be heavier, it can be clearer. Here's how deep thinkers turn weight into wisdom without losing themselves. Shift from why to what now. When insight stops growing, action must begin. Ask, what is the next kind move, not the perfect move? One tiny behavior beats 10 perfect thoughts. Set a rumination boundary. Give the problem 10 quiet minutes, then decide, explore or exit. If no new signal appears, say, this thought is complete for today. Stand, breathe, change rooms. Move the body to move the mind. Anchor in the senses, presence on demand. 4 slow breaths. Feel feet on the floor. Name 3 textures you can touch. Presence is not anti-thinking, it's anti-spiral. Translate depth into expression. Thoughts need an exit. Journal in maps, arrows, clusters, cause to effect. Create a paragraph, a sketch, a 20-minute build. Expression turns fog into form. Protect sacred inputs. Your mind is a lens. Guard what passes through it. Fewer hot takes, more long reads. Fewer pings, more walks. Choose people who ask real questions. Practice deliberate incompletion. Let some questions remain open on purpose. Write, unfinished, on hold, still beautiful. Peace isn't only in answers, it's in allowing. Rehearse the return. You will drift. That's human. Have a simple ritual that brings you back. Tea plus window, 5 breaths, 1 page. Not perfection, pattern. A softer promise. You don't need to think less to be okay. You need to hold less at once. You're not too slow, you're precise. You're not distant, you're discerning. You're not hard to love, you're carefully built. Depth in a shallow world is a kind of light. Carry it gently. Aim it kindly. Let it make you truer, not just smarter. And when the noise gets loud, return to the simple things that never ask you to perform. A breath, a quiet room, a sky that doesn't explain itself. Take care of your mind. I'm glad you're here. I'll see you in the next one.